And
I'm glad to be here. Super exciting to be a part of this hackathon. I think that this is such a eventful time in Web3 right now, and there's just so much going on, and it's a great time to be doing a hackathon because everyone's getting excited, and so very, very stoked to be here for sure.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I just wanted to hop on and give a little introduction about what exactly is Goldsky. So my name is Andrew. I'm the customer success manager, and I work a lot with the different teams that build on Goldsky. And I just wanted to give a little insight into high-level overview. What exactly are we? Before we dive into with John, what exactly people can expect while they're building. So at a very high level, we're essentially trying to be and are currently being Web3's real-time data platform. So really, we just want to be the gold standard for on-chain indexing. So what that means is we try to provide really high-performance indexing via a couple different products. They're called Subgraphs and Mirror. So Subgraphs, essentially, just to give a really quick overview, it's essentially faster indexing and query responses. And a really, really highly valuable perk of that is that it's customizable and flexible. So really, we can offer dedicated support to help you iterate and then optimize, because oftentimes if there's just a specific API that you call and you can't really tune it to your exact specific needs, it's not as effective. So the customizability we offer, with features like custom caching, webhooks, and just various ways that you can index to be really specific to your needs, it just makes for a faster and better experience. And that's Subgraphs. And essentially, one way you can think about it is you're trying to basically pool on-chain data and just understand and read what's going on. Now that's Subgraphs. On the other hand, we have Mirror as well, which streams blockchain data into basically any kind of database that you have that we support. And it also manages reorgs automatically. It enables data transformation. It's just like a really fast way to get insights into what's happening on chain and push it into your existing database. And so that's basically the two products we have, but what exactly even is indexing, right? Like, why do you want to index on-chain data? What's the purpose of that? And really, it comes down to a few things. Number one, it's really quick data retrieval, because what indexing does, it essentially creates like a structured database. So you don't have to scan every block. When you read data directly from the chain, it's really inefficient and it can be slower. So indexing, because of the structured database, it just speeds up finding specific data, like whether you want to understand transactions or balances. It just makes it much faster. And what this unlocks is just better analytics, because you can analyze network activity and trends and just have better insights into your user behavior or various contract interactions, because that can be very vital for growth and optimization, especially as you scale and you're getting more users and you really want to understand what they're doing. So what that can do is just make it so that it's more efficient to do that kind of analysis. But besides the analytics use case, it can also power real-time use cases for your app. So for example, index data that can allow you to have real-time updates in your app front end. So if there's any changes on chain, it can be really quickly and up-to-date reflected in the user interface. So you can even power really unique use cases with your front end using updated on-chain data. And just like you can make it so that it updates the front end data, you can also have efficient backend processes too, so that, if there's some kind of smooth access to data, you can reduce the complexity for syncing data across different services. And, you can make your backend just react specifically to on-chain events. So there's a lot of different benefits. This is really robust real-time data that, you don't have to manage complex infrastructure, because it can be quite costly and challenging to just internally maintain these types of, indexing infrastructures. And so when you can just stream this network activity directly to your database really quickly, or query, whatever type of information you need on chain, it just facilitates, building innovative applications that you couldn't build without it if you're having to focus on, the infrastructure maintenance, or if you're trying to do this and it's not as fast. So it just really unlocks cool use cases, and we're very excited to see what you all build out. And so a little shout out too for our bounty. We do have one for this hackathon, and very interested and curious to see what you're going to build out. I'm one of the judges, so looking forward to seeing how you can get really creative, because basically what we're looking here for is how are you unlocking possibilities that the real-time data can unlock, and what exactly are you doing that's really creative and pushing the limits of what's possible in DeFi. And, that's really at the core of what Ethena is doing here, right? It's trying to just push the limits of what's possible. And you're going to need really efficient, scalable infrastructure to make that happen. And so we're excited to be a part of that. And I would love it if when you do submit your project, it'd be super helpful if you can give us some kind of feedback on, what is the developer experience like from your perspective? Are there any ways that, there's something that you thought was missing or something you really enjoyed using when building with Goldsky? So when you do make your submissions, we'd appreciate if you can add some feedback. We're always trying to iterate. We're always trying to improve. We love talking to developers directly. And so if you do have any questions, if you need any support, just reach out to us in Discord. And yeah, very excited to see what you're going to build out. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on John now, our tech services lead, and he's going to dive in with a pretty cool demo and show you, just how powerful Subgraphs and Mirror are.
Thank you for the intro, Andrew.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about what Goldsky can offer app devs as well as just curious people on chain. I think there's a lot of opportunity to use our data, not just for building your own dApp, but also just to explore what's on chain. You can think of us as like a database that would back a block explorer. So we've got all of the event logs, all of the transactions, all of the blocks, and you can access that with a couple different ways. So I'm just going to share my screen. We'll get into it. Boom. Infinite. Cool. So quick agenda. So I think Andrew already covered talking about Goldsky. I'm going to talk about Subgraphs and Mirror. If you are a Web3 dev, you might have heard of subgraphs. Basically, subgraphs are a way to index on-chain data and decode it, as well as a way to spin up like an API endpoint that you can use for your own dApp. So Goldsky offers this. There are other products out there that also offer it, but I think we got some cool features that hopefully you think are also cool. But yeah, just as a quick rundown, as an example of a subgraph, like Uniswap has a subgraph that tracks balances on their swaps as well as everything else. And subgraphs, you have to write a lot of code. That's the first thing. There's a lot of boilerplate, but then there's a lot of custom code you need to write. And so you can do that. If you have a subgraph, you can also copy it. These are open source, so you can go deploy these subgraphs on Goldsky as well. But if you want to build your own, we make it pretty easy, especially if you want to just index, let's say, just the events on your smart contract. That's easy to do as well. And I'll show you really quick. So we have a thing called instant subgraphs, and you can check our docs if you want to go into a lot of detail. We've got a lot of worked examples that you can use. We're mostly using nouns as an example, just because it's something that a lot of people know about and get. But for us, what we're going to do is we're actually going to index USDE. So this is an instant subgraph configuration. So it's not no code. I would call it very low code. You can just have it as simple as the contract address, starting block, and chain, as well as the ABI that you want to provide. And so here we've got USDE. ABI is a JSON file that you can pull from your block explorer. And actually, I'll show you how to do that really quick, just in case you don't know. So we'll go to here. I'll jump to the contract. If you go over to the contract tab, you can scroll down past here, go to the ABI, and yeah, this is the ABI. And so you can just copy that, put it into a JSON file, and use that. And you'll see in here that there are different events that happen to be part of the contract. And so this one has, pretty typical events for ERC20, but it also has some other events because I think it's a little special. But so cool, I'll show you this. And also, I will tell you, I cheated a little bit. I did some of this work beforehand just to save a little bit of time. As you saw in the previous demo, we were looking at blocks indexing. It doesn't take too long, especially on Ethena testnet. I think I can deploy this and it will be fully indexed in 2 or 3 minutes. But I've already indexed it. So again, I'm cheating a little bit, but yeah, let's go through this config really quick. So I said you could just use the contract address, but in this case, we're doing a little bit of extra stuff, which is called enrichment. And that's basically letting us create some custom data in the subgraph that wouldn't be part of the regular indexing. So with ERC20 tokens, you can transfer them from wallet to wallet. But if you want to check how much is in a particular person's wallet, you need to go hit that RPC or check the contract and request like the balance of a particular user. So the cool thing with Subgraphs is you can do some of these aggregations and then store the data so you can keep it for later, so you don't have to keep hitting that RPC node. And so the cool thing is you can use this basically to create an API endpoint for your own dApp. Let's say your dApp is has a bunch of people using it, and you want to be able to show, hey, what are the balances of each token they hold or each NFT. And this is a way to do it. So we're basically, the handler is watching for this transfer event. And because the transfer is always going to be from an address to an address with some amount, we're like basically calculating the balance of each holder. So it's going to be less from the one who transferred away, more of the one transferred to. And so this is just a little bit of boilerplate to get that done. And you can see down here, I'm actually like creating a custom entity. So again, if you know Subgraphs, you kind of know what this is. We're making an entity called balances. Its ID is going to be based on the contract address and the person or the wallet ID. In this case, since we're only doing one token, we probably could just make it just the wallet ID. But for out of I don't know, experience, I've included both. So we could index more than one token here, or we could index an exchange which has a pool of tokens, and so we want to keep those balances in a single database, basically. And so, yeah, we're getting the contract address, owner address. We're also dividing, like looking at the balance and dividing it by 1 to the power of 18, which is like the number of decimals on the token, which is just a thing you need to know if you're looking at ERC20 or 1155. And yeah, this is creating a subgraph and also adding a balance entity. So this will index all the events that are in this contract, and it will also create its separate entity called balances. So I'll jump to my terminal here and just show you what it looks like if I were to deploy this. But let's see, I'll go Goldsky. And so we have a CLI tool. Check our docs, install that, and it will let you do all this stuff from the command line. And I'm going to deploy it. We're going to call it Ethena USDE. And we'll go 1.4 from API instant config.json. All right, it's done. And so that will actually like return to you an API endpoint that is open to the public. It's meant to be. You can query that and write GraphQL queries to get data. I'm going to just kind of demo this using our GraphQL Explorer. You don't need to use this Explorer. You can just take this URL and bake it into your app and use that to query. And in this case, I wrote this GraphQL query where I'm looking at the balances collection. And if you want to see what is available for your subgraph, there's like a handy little docs panel here. Is a little noisy, hard to know, but if you go to this query tab, you'll see all the events and details about like how you can query it. This one has a lot of interesting events, but balances collection is the thing I care about. And so we're going to look for the first 100 balances for USDE. We're ordering it by the total balance descending. We're pulling the owner address and we're pulling the balance. And so you can see I already ran the query, but that's okay. Let's go double check our work. I think that's always good to do, make sure that we didn't mess anything up. And I say that because, as you can see before this workshop, I frantically deployed like 2 or 3 versions of this subgraph because I had a little bug in my code. But it's all good now. So we go to this contract, which is the biggest holder of USDE. We can go look at their tokens, and we can see here that we've got air quote USDE, which I don't know, maybe that's the fake one. And then we've got actual USDE. And so it says 899,999. Yeah, we got it. This is also real time. So if there happened to be a transfer like right now and I hit query, it should be here within seconds, less than a second usually. Let's go double check another one of these. Let's go to like a funky balance, 5.01. And I think this was one that I thought was interesting. Maybe the Ethena folks can tell me about this, but like I thought that when you have decimals, it meant that you couldn't send fractional versions below the decimal count. Maybe this is because it's like we're doing gas token stuff. It's not true anymore. But anyways, we see that like, yeah, this number is the same as what we've got coming from our subgraph. So basically we've got data in a subgraph hosted at Goldsky. You don't have to have your own database, and you can kind of just query this stuff with a really easy API endpoint. You don't need to worry about like setting up an RPC or, using the API of the Block Explorer, because I don't know if you know a lot of Block Explorers, all the API, there's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different APIs that you have to figure out. So how about use GraphQL? But cool. So So that works, and it did what we expected it to do. We could even go check, because I just did deploy another version of this, and you can see it's already indexed. So like it didn't take very long. That was 3 minutes ago, and it's already live. And these things, they're exactly the same, but don't worry about it. Cool. So that's subgraphs. I guess I'll pause to see if there are any questions, if anyone had anything they wanted to know about subgraphs. But yeah, like you saw before, you can deploy subgraphs that index blocks. You can deploy subgraphs that index all kinds of different contracts. You can also deploy subgraphs that, while they're indexing contracts, they'll go hit a contract and request like a balance of somebody, as we saw. So like, just as an example, this is like what the subgraph is doing. If I go to this contract and I go read, I can find balance of, because you can see in my code, this is what I was doing. So, and it will give me back this number, which does need to be divided by 10 to the power of 18, which if I hover over it, you see it says 5.01. But yeah, so that's all kind of encoded in this subgraph as part of the calls being made when a transfer happens. So I think that's pretty cool. Sweet. All right. Well, I'm not hearing any questions. I'm going to open the window really quick to make sure I'm not muted or missing something. All right, cool. All right. Come on, you guys, got to get hyped. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Mirror. So subgraphs are great if you need basically like an instantaneous API endpoint. You don't have any infrastructure of your own. You don't have a lot of complex needs. You can kind of just spin it up, get it going, and deploy it on Goldsky or the Graph or wherever. But I think Goldsky's cool, and especially if you want to use an instant subgraph like this, which is a lot easier than writing all the code. But we also have a thing called Mirror. It's just a product name. What does Mirror do? Mirror will basically take on-chain data and deliver it to your database. So you have to have your own database if you're using Mirror. We support things like Postgres, MySQL, ClickHouse, Timescale DB. We also support like some like data layer stuff like SQS and Kafka, so we can send data there. And the reason you might use Mirror instead of a subgraph is that, as you saw, that block subgraph, it wasn't indexing super fast. It is pretty fast, but subgraphs have to work like block to block to block to block. So backfilling them can take a little while sometimes, especially if you have a really big and complicated subgraph. Like if you were to deploy like Uniswap onto Ethena or Dingo Swap, whatever you want to call it, it's going to take a little while to index that subgraph just because there are a lot of blocks, there are a lot of ETH calls, and that just takes time. And it's the way that subgraphs and subgraph indexing is built is pretty fixed. Like you're not going to make it go too much faster unless you build your own solution, which there are some out there. But our solution is Mirror. And so what Mirror is basically we have pre-indexed every chain that we support, and all that data is effectively available right away. You can just hit a button and sync it to your database, and then from there, you can write SQL queries. You can write SQL queries to get the data. You can write SQL queries to understand the data. And so I'm going to show you basically a copy of this instant subgraph, but in a Mirror configuration. So Mirror, basically, you just need a YAML file, though also you don't need that. There are other ways to do this. I'll show you that really quick, actually, first. The super easy mode. You can go into pipelines, say new pipeline, direct indexing. We'll go to, hopefully this is here, Ethena testnet, and you'll see, actually it will show me my subgraphs because they're on Ethena testnet as well. But you could go select something like transactions or blocks or raw logs. And from there, it'll tell you, here's what the data looks like. It has this kind of schema. This is a config file. You could just copy this and use that, or you can just create it right here. You can also do things like filter by a particular contract address, right? So if I wanted to filter for this contract here, I would just paste it in. Though I think probably you want it, our product's great. We do it automatically. I was gonna say you might want to paste it in a lowercase only, but it looks like, yeah, we know you might have pasted it in mixed case. So we do that already for you. And you see this like adds a filter, and this will, this will just get it going. And deploy it. And I've got my own databases configured already in Goldsky, and I could just select that and it's going to sync it for me. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to do this other example I got. So let's go back to my config. So yeah, we already have the address in here. I am creating like a somewhat complicated SQL query here, but we have a few UDFs. And again, you'll want to check our docs. So we're doing decode a log. We're also fetching an ABI. I put the ABI for this contract in a GitHub gist just because it's kind of big. So we can basically select that file from the web if you've got it stored somewhere, if it's in S3 or wherever. GitHub's pretty easy though. I'm also pulling it from there. I'm looking at the topics. So the data in Goldsky, it's just the chain data, right? Like it doesn't know that this is a transfer. It doesn't know that it's something else. It just has information that the chain would have. And so you have to kind of know, okay, this is the topic for a transfer event, which, this is basically a KEKAC 256 hash of the transfer event. I'm also doing a little special thing here where I'm checking how many topics there are by splitting the string and seeing if there are 3 or 4 topics, because the ERC 721 actually has the exact same signature, except it has more topics because the NFT is indexed. Anyways, so this is selecting out some useful data like block number, transaction hash, log index, address, and then we're also decoding the event parameters. So in a transfer event, you've got the sender, the recipient, and the amount. And so I'm doing some stuff here to make sure that I'm like matching the schema of my database. I want to make sure that amount is a numeric value. And then I'm dropping it in here. And again, got some schema config stuff. Hopefully you don't have to worry about this. It's a ClickHouse specific thing, but if you're using Postgres, a lot of this stuff is actually a little bit easier, but ClickHouse is pretty dope. So, so what do we do with this? Very similar to subgraphs. We're gonna just go up to here, go to Mirror, and I can do Goldsky, pipeline, deploy or apply, Ethena, logs, YAML. And I think this is already deployed, so I don't know if it's gonna work. We'll see. All right, no, it made a new one, cool. You can check out and make sure that it's like doing things. This usually takes like 2 or 3 minutes to spin up for the very first time, but if you make modifications or changes, it's a lot quicker. This is why I did it in advance, so you didn't have to sit here and watch this thing as it goes, starting. But I'm gonna make you watch for a second, just so you know. I'm gonna fix my screen so it doesn't look jank. Okay, it is starting, but like I said, we already did this. We know it's already started. And so the idea here is I'm in my ClickHouse console, and you could probably use a database or something else, anything you would use to like model your data or view it. But a little compressed SQL here, but I'm basically selecting all of the transfers and I'm creating a ledger of balances. I'm subtracting a value from the sender, I'm adding it from the receiver, and then I'm also doing an outer query where I'm selecting it, dividing by 1/10 to the power of 18, and summing that amount and getting all the holders. And so this will give me effectively the same query we saw when we were looking at the balances in GraphQL. And so, yeah, we can see that we've got all these balances. They match what we should have. And again, let's go check that GraphQL query really quick if we want to double check our work. Yeah, we can see this one. Let's go back here. They should have a balance of 100, and they do. So yeah, that's pretty cool. This also updates in real time. So if someone transferred something here and I selected this again, we'd see that balance change in real time. So we stream that data into the rows, and depending on the kind of SQL that you've got in your mirror configuration, it should just end up right in your database as is. And we also are like reorg aware. So if there are reorgs, you don't have to like do anything special in your data. We will update and delete and remove rows that are part of the reorg and make sure that the data is there is as real time as possible. But yeah, that's Mirror. Let's see, is this going already? No, it's still starting. Like I said, it could take 2 or 3 minutes. We're at 2 minutes. It's gonna go. And yeah, so let's see. That's it. Cool. I guess, yeah, that's pretty much everything I want people to know. We are available. I have my info here on Telegram, Clover.js. Feel free to hit me up. You can also email us at support@goldsky.com if we're there. I don't know if Andrew is in the Discord. You can shout out if you are, but we have a pretty decent free tier. You can have up to 3 subgraphs for free running at the same time. There are storage limits, but it's pretty generous. I think you can store something like maybe 100,000 entities for free in a month, which is a decent amount, especially should be fine on Ethena testnet. Pipelines also, again, depending on the amount of data, a single small pipeline is free for the pipeline worker. The amount of data you can sync, I think it's up to 1 million entities for a pipeline in a month. So that should be pretty good for any of these things. And if you ever like get surprised by pricing or something like that, because it is like usage based, just hit us up. Like, we definitely are not interested in charging people for things they didn't mean to have or pay for. So if you are at all confused about the pricing, just hit us up. We'll make it right. But yeah, I think let's go look at maybe how many rows there are. 46. Okay, so only 46 transfers on there. You're not going to get charged for that. You'll be good to go. But cool. Let's see here. I'll jump back into chat. I'll stop sharing to okay, yeah, Andrew's in Discord. Cool. So that's it. Unless anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them.
Thank you for this. Everyone, if you do want to ask some questions, please make sure to voice them in chat. We also have a dedicated question section on the side. So please make sure to voice any concerns you might have, things that you might not understand yet. But as you've seen, you have Andrew's details as well. If you want to have ask any questions, you can also follow up and ask these on Discord as well, and we'll make sure to follow up and respond as soon as possible. A lot of you end up DMing us. One thing that we wanted to mention is that ideally you want to ask your questions publicly, because we know that a lot of you are probably having these questions. So it's the reason why we ask you to post these publicly is on purpose, because we want others to have exposure to the same issues that you're tackling, like having troubles with, so that they can see ways that you end up resolving these, which might end up helping them as well on their building journeys. Right. Any maybe last bits, John, you want to cover, or?
No, I think that's it from our side. Like I said, hit us up if there's any questions, and yeah, hope you guys can use Goldsky to build something really cool. And that could be a dApp. It could also just be something where you're analyzing the data. There's always interesting stuff happening on chain, so I think it's fun to kind of dig into it and learn new things.
Fantastic. Well, to all of you, again, a reminder that if you want to explore Goldsky's bounties or bounties in general, you can have a look in the Hacker Pack, where you can see details as well as documentation and things that you can tackle and engage with, and hopefully win some prizes by the end of the hackathon. This has been the last workshop for the week, and starting next week, we're moving into the building phase of the hackathon. So we'll be expecting all of you to get your hands dirty, like experiment with new tech, and tell us what's going right, what's going wrong. Please voice anything in chat, and we'll make sure to follow up and help you all.